Hi there, everybody. I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And in this video today, we're going to be making a virtual slide puzzle with the Among Us theme. We're going to be using GameMaker Studio, the April 26th, 2024 edition. Probably not too much will change in the future when it comes to this base functionality, but you never know. And this video today is brought to you by College of DuPage's STEMCon. So STEMCon, the convention, I will be giving these talks with students, well, tomorrow in my world, but probably well in the past in yours when you're watching this video. But hopefully you can glean some information about how to create a very simple, basic game using GameMaker if you have no previous experience. So speaking of starting a game up with no previous experience, well, what are we trying to accomplish in this video? So let's take a look. So we're going to be taking a look at something like this, where I have a 9-piece puzzle. I have 9 pieces on this board. I have an overlay graphic, and I can click on the pieces and they will go to where basically if there's a spot for it to move into the blank hole, it will do so. And then that's pretty much the whole thing. It's going to take a while to get us there, just from the start here, just from nothing, especially again if you're not understanding how the system works at all. So let's just jump into it. The first step will be to just check out what a blank game looks like, and then we'll add this overlay graphic, which is the least exciting part of the entire project. So this is what a blank GameMaker Studio project looks like. Basically, we just started this with absolutely nothing in it. But basically everything that's nothing in it starts with just at least one game room. And I've gone ahead, and this game is going to be using what we call 720p resolution. So we know 4K, we know the 1080p resolution that used to be part of that used to be the biggest and the best. We're going to do 720p resolution, which is a little bit smaller than that. And so I'm going to be setting over here, setting the room settings so that we're using 1280 by 720 for those settings. And I'm also over here changing the grid settings to be 20 by 20, and it's just one of those, I know what I'm going to be doing ahead of time. And these settings are going to make it easy for you guys to put your assets into this game room as we create them. So that is starting out, what are we starting out from? So 720p resolution, and by 20 by 20 here when it comes to the grid size. And so now we're going to create a sprite for that overlay graphic that we talked about. And so let me just show you how I can do this. And so I can create a sprite, and I can go in here and I can resize this. So so basically there's an empty graphic that we're going to be using here. I'm going to call this overlay SPR. Every asset in GameMaker needs to have a unique name. So I'm going to have overlay with the underscore SPR, and that will give me the unique name as we move forward. You'll see as we go. So what I want to do here is I want to make this 600 by 600, because this is going to be the field in which we put the actual pieces in, basically the hole in the graphic. And so if I apply that, you'll see that it might look like nothing really changed, but if I go into the edit image here, and I go in here, you can see that there is something. It's blank, but if I'm just going to fill this in with any color. So I just pick a color, any color, use the fill tool, and go ahead and use the fill. I'm going to use something darker. I use black. See, well, I'll use something dark, but here, I'll just use red. That's fine. There we go. And so what I can do now is, now we need to advance this out to make this the size of the entire room, the 720p room. So what I can do, go back to my sprite, double click the sprite, go in here, and then make this slightly bigger. I'm going to make this 606 by 606, and you'll see why in a second. And I'm going to use the centering tool, keep that centered, and I apply. And now you see there's this little blank area. I'm going to take the white, and I'm going to fill in that spot with the white. There we go. So you'll see in a minute here, this is basically going to add a little border to the game room that otherwise wouldn't be allowed. And so now I'm going to go back in one more time over here and edit this thing to make this, the entire thing, the 1280 by 720 resolution here, and resize it centered, and I apply that, and now you can see kind of where we're going. We have the overlay part of the graphic, we have this little white border, and then we have this room here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a dark gray. I mean, you can fill this, of course, and make this as nice as you want, but for the process of this video, I'm not worried about that. and then I'm going to use the wizard tool to go into our red and just hit delete. So that will fill in a hole. That will make this a blank hole for the graphic. And so now our final step is to talk to GameMaker and tell it that this hole isn't going to be part of the image when we put this into an object in our room. So sometimes we can tell GameMaker, even though there's a hole in this graphic, we'll treat the whole graphic as something that would be collidable. But to make this work for the rest of the game, we need to say that this hole doesn't count as part of the image as a whole. So we have to go into our sprite, we have to go down to the collision mask, and then we say, I still want to use the full image, but I want to say precise slow, and then you can see that this is kind of, this is kind of grayed or ungrayed out or whatever, the whole gray or whatever, and then with 0 tolerance, so this will tell GameMaker that the overlay graphic is ready to go. So now, with this in place, I can create an object, using that sprite, overlay sprite. I'm going to call the object overlay with nothing else. Let's just make sure I spell it right. And I did. And so and that's all I need to worry about. And then I can go back into my room with this object now in play. And now I can drag this thing in. And now I have, because everything matched up. And if I run this, the overlay graphic is done. Oh, I should be using, I should be using the test platform here, so it runs in a like an actual window as opposed to like in a browser. So yeah, I'm going to switch this to test. Forgot that pops up like that. And I run it now, and there it is. I drag it in here. So here is the game working. Of course, there's nothing going on yet. Okay, so the overlay is now done, and we have the nice little border around everything we're going to fill in. And so now it's time to fill in the rest of the game with the tiles. Okay, so let's take a look at creating one object using this. So I'll create an object, and I will call it tile 01. And then what I can do here is I can say, well, I want the tile 01 sprite. So naming this thing is very nice, right? I don't have to worry about, for objects, I don't use OBJ or anything like that. I just use the names of the object because it makes typing it out easier when you're working in GameMaker code and so forth and so on. So, but again, they have unique names still. So tile 01 uses the tile 01 sprite. And so what I want to do is write some code here. Let's put the object in first, and you can kind of get a feel for what I want to do. Having the 20 by 20 grid is going to be helpful now, trying to drag this thing in right there here. And so what I'm doing is, what I'm going to do for code is, just remember, we're going to have, this thing's going to be filled up with pieces. And so there's going to be one space with a hole. And basically, I'm going to write 4 if statements here, and go, if I click on this thing and there's a hole to the right, then move right. But if there isn't, maybe I'll try going back to the left. If there's space to the left, I'll go left. Or maybe I'll try to go up and try to go up, or I'll try to go down. And so, basically we'll see if we can move that piece when I click on it, one of the 4 directions in which it could go. And it will, and it will go that way, and then, you'll have to click it again to bring it back. And then, so what I'm saying here is that when I do an event, when I do a mouse click event on the object, on that specific object, and I'm going to say visual here because I'm not going to write code. I'm going to show you how to do this in drag and drop. And so this pops up, and now there's, now I can fill this in with a bunch of code. And if you're familiar with Scratch or any other visual environment, this should be, very simple for you here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to an if statement. And say if, where's my if collision here? Nope, but none of these is that. All right. So, oops, collision to else. If, and in this case, we're making a simple game, so I don't have to think anything more of using this if statement. And I'm going to say here, if there's any object placed, so forth and so on, and in this case, I'm going to say it's all relative, meaning take where I'm standing right now, and if I moved over 1 pixel, if I can move over 1 pixel and there's no object there, like if I moved, like basically, I'm going to fill in the hole, then I don't have to worry about there being an object anywhere else in the way of me moving in that direction. This is me moving right, and I say, well, if that's the case, and there, and there's not an object moving me to my right, then I can move right. And I can do a jump point, and I could say relative to where I am, move 200, because I want to move that object one full square over. And so the only thing left to do here is to say, well, if that's not true, and this again, tedious work here, at least especially in the drag and drop, and I have to move things around to make things look halfway decent here, is now I can say the same in the negative. And I go, if I can't go to the right, maybe I can go to the left. And if I can't go to the left, then maybe I can go up. Again, the trickiness is in just getting the drag and drop to do what you want it to do. And in this case, I'm going to try to go relative in the Y position. Else one last time. This is the last code we're going to write here. Else. Oops. Drag it in one more time. Now try in the negative Y position. Try to do that. So let's get this all in one thing here. If I can go right, go right. Otherwise, if I can go left, go left. Otherwise, if I can go up, go up. Otherwise, if I can go down, I go down. And so let's see what happens now with what we've already done. And now I can click, and you can see it goes right and then it goes left. And there's no way for me to test up and down with just one object. I'll have to put the other objects into the scene, and then we can make it work. So now the final step here is to duplicate this, since we wrote the code over and over and over again. I'm going to duplicate this, so we have 8 of them. I don't need 9 of them, because we're going to, one of those 9 pieces is the whole, so we're not going to worry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more. Okay, tile 01, tile 02. In this case, I'm going to rename tile 01, tile 02, because the tile 1 is going to be the tile I don't use. So I've got tile 2, tile 3, oops, tile 4, oops, I don't know why it's alphabetizing it, that's okay. Tile 5, maybe I don't want it alphabetized, whatever. Tile 7, tile 8, and tile 9. And then what I can do to finalize this is I can go in and I can make sure that for each object, the sprite, which I'll have to make it into 2 now, the sprite will have to match the name. Tile 2 sprite matches tile 2, tile 3 should match tile 3 sprite, and so forth and so on. Okay, so if I have everything right then, and now it's a matter of going back to my room, and I do have to move this over. Let me put in tile 3 first, so I can put tile 2 next to it. Don't have to think about the math or anything. And there's 2 and 3, or I'm sorry, yeah, 2 and 3, and then we just drag in 4 and 5. Oops. Whoa, what is happening? Okay, 5 and 6 and 6 and 7. And 8 and 9. And I can run this now and see if it's working, because all the objects have the same behavior. If I click an object, it's going to see if it can fill the hole, and if it can fill the hole, it's going to. So I said this one, like this can't move, this can't move, none of these can move around, even this one, but this one can, and then I can move it back. And this one can go up, and now it can go down. So everything, if there's a hole to fill with the object, when I click it, it'll go there, which is exactly what I want it to do. So technically speaking, our game is done, but I just wanted to show you one last cute little trick that we could do, and we can trick GameMaker into making this a little more like, look a little more like the real puzzle, like maybe you've seen or maybe you haven't out in the real world. So to do something like to add a little square around the graphic, so that, remember back to the original one, I had a little white square around it or something, so, and what I could do here is I can go into any one of the objects. I'll go into tile 2, and I'm going to take over the draw event. So basically I'm telling GameMaker, and I'm going to use the visual again, and I'm telling GameMaker that I know better than it what to do about how to draw this image when it's time to draw this image on the screen. And I'm going to say, the first thing I want to do is tell it, okay, even though I took over the draw event and I know better than you, I still want you to draw the image you would have drawn anyway. And that's what draw self does. It says to draw this image on the screen. And then I want you to draw a rectangle after. And I can go, it's all relative. And I know this image is 200 pixels wide, so I can say from 0 to 198 on both ends. I don't want it to fill, but I also want it to set the color of it. Where's my draw set color? Draw set color, set draw color. And I say, just for the sake of this, I'll use something a little different. I'll just use something that's a little yellowy, just so you can kind of see it. It's a whitish yellow. And so now this should draw on top of it, and you should see it at least in the one image. You won't see it on the rest. And here, let me drag this in. So now you can see it is drawing a yellow image around the sprite, or draws the sprite and then this little rectangle on top. And so now what I can do, I can right click here and I can say copy, and I can go into all the other objects and paste. And now, with that said, every object, once I do this right, every object will draw that little yellow box over the graphic, and we are done. And now that we are really done with this, and so the project is complete. So the final step would be like maybe write some code to determine how do I know if we found a solution case or something. But that requires more work than I'm willing to put in for this video. This is just a how you do to GameMaker. So now you can see the little, you can see the grid on the screen, and you could do whatever you want with the color, or not even show it at all. But now you can see that, as I click and whatever, you can kind of see, well, what am I trying to accomplish? How am I trying to get this thing done? What am I trying to do? Well, that is the video that I wanted to give you guys, especially those of you who are in my class for STEMCON, and you have something to fall back on when class is over, at least how to redo this. And those of you out in the world, I appreciate any of the views that you guys give me, like and subscribe and all that nonsense. And I hope you learned something from this. And if not, or if so, if you would like to comment, of course, please comment below and join the party. Well, thanks again for sticking it out with me in these videos. Again, I have hundreds of videos available on all sorts of stuff that I do when I teach here at the college, programming and gaming and just random stuff that that I fancy. And if you want to watch those videos, of course, feel free. So thanks everybody. Have a great day. Take it easy. See you next time.